How's it going, everybody? You're tuning in to Sid List, which stands for shit you didn't learn in school, and I'm your host Pablo. And before we get started with today's episode, I want to point out that I also have a podcast, and I just started this series called Car Thoughts, which are like shower thoughts, but they're ones you have in the car while you're driving. And I found it that I'm in the car a lot, so I figured I'd just start recording myself mumbling while I'm in the car. And yeah, I put out an episode today, and I just kind of talk about what's going on with the GameStop's stock, and it's pretty hilarious when you know all the details. So go ahead and check that out. But the goal of today's episode is to talk about whether or not Q is a PsyOp. All right, a lot of people have been talking about this with recent events unfolding, and I just want to nip this in the butt. All right, they call QAnon a cult, but I just found this nice post on Gab. Gab's been very reliable so far. But check this out. The only cult in history that no one has met the leader. The leader insists that you think for yourself, promotes nonviolence and truth. Our sole weapons are logic and research. We pay no dues, receive no pay, nor glory. Freedom is the reward and peace is the prize. So what Q is really about, it's a movement. It's not a cult. And it's not a PsyOp either. It makes no damn sense for it to be a PsyOp. And really what this episode is about is explaining that this whole PsyOp thing I'm hearing everybody saying that QAnon and Trump and all of them misled us and all that. I'm going to say this right now. That is freaking stupid. That is stupid. All right. If you really do follow the QAnon movement, then you use this thing right here, logic and research, and you realize that don't make no damn sense. All right. What I'm hearing people are upset that Joe Biden's president right now. But if you're still following Q and you're still following what the real thing about Q is supposed to be teaching us, is the fact that Q is never predicted anything. I want to point that out. Q hasn't made predictions. They put out information, and it's been people on the internet putting out predictions. All right. Have some of them been wrong? Yeah, a lot of them have been wrong. All right. But I mean, the whole thing with QAnon is people believe that this is a military operation, meaning we believe that there is an aspect of the military involved, and that these drops they're putting out are meant to inform the public. Now, let's talk about what Q hasn't done first. All right. First off, Q has not said this is going to happen at this exact time, this exact way. Q has never put out a post like that. All right. So, because I'm seeing a lot of people put out comments like, what has Q ever put out that came true? Q is like 0 and 302 on prediction correction. People putting out stuff. People are super upset. People expected something to happen during that fake inauguration we were watching. Yeah, it was fake. If you didn't know it's fake, you can go and watch my last video I put out called Trump Played His Part and the Military's in Control, if you want more details on that. But in a nutshell, that wasn't a real inauguration. And if you've learned anything from Q, this would be obvious to you, because what Q has really done, it hasn't actually given a lot of information. What it's done is taught people to look for information. All right. I'm just gonna give a little bit of my background, why I believe Q is legit and why I believe it makes sense, and why I believe, it's not over, is the fact that I have experience with this type of training. All right. I'm gonna take it back a bit. All right. Back all the way. This goes back for me as far as high school, where I was a tutor in my senior year of high school. And it was one of my periods where the entire period I was just a tutor, and I helped the younger classmates, like all the the junior, sophomore, and freshmen. I was there to show them how to learn, if that makes sense. Like, I was tutoring them on how to study. We would get in groups. We'd sit everybody down. We'd be like, all right, the subject for today is math. Everybody get out your math homework. All right, who has a math issue that they're struggling with? All right, someone will be like, all right, cool, I'm in algebra right now. I don't understand integers. I don't understand exponents. How do I figure this out? I wouldn't go up there with a whiteboard and start explaining everything just like how the teacher does. I'd be like, all right, what do you understand? I understand I understand an exponent does this. All right, we'll go on the board. Tell me what you do understand. why don't you understand this part? Pretty much I would walk them through, but I wouldn't give them an answer. I would ask them questions to lead them to the answer. All right. The easiest way to explain this is I didn't give the students fish. I taught them how to fish. Okay. That's very important. All right. Because, if I just gave them the answer, they write it down, they go take their test, they'd get that answer correct. But in the very next one, they'd want another fish, they'd want another bone. We'd have to go back and I have to give them another answer. That's not the point of the class. The point of the class, at least for me and for them, was you got to learn how to do this on your own. By the end of the year, like the ones I was tutoring on a regular basis, they got on it. They picked up on it. I started interjecting less and less toward the end of the class. That meant I was doing my job correctly because they were starting to figure out how to find these answers out and how to study all on their own, because all I did was guide them toward the answer. I didn't give them the answer because honestly, sometimes I didn't even know what the answer was, but I still helped guide them to find it. Now, knowing that, I want to give my age away, but that was about a decade ago. And what do you call it? After high school, I joined the military, and I got a very similar type of experience. I was in aircraft maintenance, and in aircraft maintenance, that could be very technical depending on the training. I mean, what you're working on and all that. What I used to work on was I was an avionics technician, so I used to work on like the computers and stuff inside a very particular jet. I don't want to go in details there because I did have a clearance, and if you go on my podcast, you'll know more details about that. But yeah, in a nutshell, what I did have to do is I had boot camp, which was 2 months of training. Then I had like not on the job training. I had schooling, which is the Army calls it like advanced training or something like that. In the Air Force, they call it technical school, or tech school for short, which is like boot camp teaches you about basics of being in the military, like when to salute, not when to salute, ranks, how to march, all that shit, push-ups, all that. Tech school is about your specific job. So I had to go to tech school for aircraft maintenance and electronic principles. That was like 6-7 months. And then I got to my actual base, and then I had on-the-job training. But my particular aircraft was so complicated, it was like, even though I already been in training for like 8-9 months already, I had to go for on-the-job training for almost another year, all right, because this particular jet was so complicated and advanced and constantly being updated. They were constantly updating the information. It was like a fluid training experience where, like, they train us on this, and then they'd update something to that jet, and then we'd have to be relearn that on fly. And because of that, and because of the high technicality of this job, the way I was trained was pretty intense. I was kind of just brought out to the jet, and I was kind of just forced to do a lot of the labor. I was a new guy, so I didn't have the knowledge yet, but I had 2 arms, 2 legs. I could pick up and move things. I was carrying tools. I was driving people. I was stationed in Nebraska, of all places, and I was also, on my first real shift there, I was on the graveyard shift during the winter. So if you've ever been in the Midwest around this part of the country during the winter and in the middle of the night on a flight line where there's no trees to block the wind, and that particular flight line I worked on kind of had walls on the other sides of it, so they kind of like funneled air through it. So it was like the wind was always like 10 miles an hour higher here because the wind was kind of funneled a little bit. The training experience was intense, but the reason I'm bringing it up was the fact that the entire time I was going through that, my trainer taught me in almost the exact same way, where he would not give me any answer. I would be going up there, and we'd have like a little bit of classroom time where they explain the procedure or the type of calibration I was performing, or whatever maintenance action I was doing on that jet. They tell me once, and then when I was on the jet, they would not answer the question. I'd be like, "Am I doing it right?" And then my trainer would be like, "I don't know. Are you doing it right?" Because if I was doing it right, I would know, and I'd feel confident, even if he was putting doubt in my head, like, "Are you sure you're doing that right?" Because sometimes I'd be doing something completely fine. He'd stand behind me, and then he'd be like, "Are you sure about that? Are you doing that correct? Before you do that next part, are you doing it correct?" He would do that to mess with my head to see if I was really confident with my knowledge, if I was really confident with what I was saying. Because there's a lot of people that learn stuff and they start to do it, but then if they're not confident, they look at their teacher, be like, "Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right?" That got trained out of me. Okay, because even when I was doing it correct, they would still mess with me to see if I knew what I was talking about. So I stopped reacting that way to new information. If you got to be confident in what you put out, and you also got to know how to look for information. Um, you know, one of the best ways to train and teach, I found out from my experience as a tutor and my experience in the military, is you have to ask questions. All right. The whole thing with QAnon has been questions. You read through the posts, question, 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 question. What it does is it engages the person looking into it to be involved in the process of investigation, not just told, hey, this is truth. And then a person just accepts it blindly, like, I don't know, religion or political ideology or, indoctrinations in school, where they just give you the info and they expect you to memorize it and believe it without any research and on your part. QAnon is the complete opposite. They don't tell us what's going on. They drop little bits of information, and then people have been digging through it, and people have been researching, and people have been asking questions, and I'm not sure because I'm still looking through a lot of the posts myself. I've transitioned from learning about QAnon and having it explained to me to actually looking at the posts myself and actually trying to do decodes on my own, because that's where I am with QAnon, where I'm actually participating in the decoding. I'm not just waiting for someone's prediction to be wrong and they'll be like, look, see, Q was wrong because you guys predicted it wrong. No, that's not how it works. All right. And I understand why some people think that, because, the people that explain it, sometimes they just say, look, Q told us this and this was supposed to happen. They don't explain to them that, well, I mean, the predictions that are being wrong, they're not Q's predictions. They're QAnon's predictions. There are people that study Q but maybe misunderstood the message or the code or whatever. And there's another little tidbit I think that everybody just goes over their head and they don't think it's important. But if this really is a military op, I'm pretty sure in a few of the posts they stated that there is going to be disinformation within the Q posts to throw off the enemy. All right, because you got to think, if we have access to the Q posts, so does the enemy. So if Q was gonna play out everything they did to the T with all the details correct and lined up, then the enemy will be able to see what they're going to do, and then it defeat the whole purpose of what Q's trying to accomplish. That makes no sense, and it's completely backwards. But Q doesn't actually do that. What Q does is it leaves breadcrumbs for people to look into, and even if there was a particular I don't know, post that put info in there that misled people to make wrong predictions, that doesn't disprove Q. All that proves is that post might have been misinformation, but Q itself as a whole is still legit. All right, because they can't tell us what Q's doing, and if everything Q is claiming, or at least what Anons think Q is claiming, is that the military doesn't really need our help. The military is in control. The military's going to handle all the bad guys and stuff. And what the public needs to be worried about is not going in the streets and marching more, because with the whole Capitol riot is they're going to pounce on any show of protesting in mass numbers and try to turn into another false flag. All right. They've weaponized false flags to get us to stop protesting. Now, if Q wasn't a thing and it was only just Trump supporters, just the surface level supporters that just like Trump for being Trump, and they went out and they started protesting, this whole thing could get out of hand and people would freak out, and they'd be going to all the capitals actually to protest, and there would be false flags put in place to demonize and further the game plan of the cabal or the black hats, whatever you want to call them, the bad guys. And it'd totally backfire the movement of what Q's supposed to be doing. But if Q puts out misinformation to where we and the enemy don't know the exact details, that means it's working. But QAnon is still at the same time waking people up. And it's really the only responsibility us as a public really need to do right now is to get up on the speed on what's going on and to get everybody else up to speed. Why do you think I'm making a video about this? We need people to understand what's really going on. People get caught up in their feelings. People expect certain things to happen. It doesn't happen the way they expect. They have emotional breakdowns. They're not emotionally intelligent enough to understand what's going on within themselves, and they project their disappointment, they project their anger and frustration out on their fellow Anons and their fellow patriots and Americans. And that's kind of the point of the real PsyOp. All right. Q is not a PsyOp. I believe all these people going out there saying Q is fake, that's the real PsyOp. They're trying to get in our head. They're trying to be like, look, y'all thought arrests were going to happen on inauguration. And when it didn't happen, that proves Q is false. No, Q is still a thing. And if you actually look into the post, you would realize that there's actually evidence within the post that suggests that it was always supposed to happen like this. And what we're witnessing right now, as I speak, with fake Joe Biden inside the fake White House signing fake executive orders, with, doing all this fake stuff. I think that is a clear telltale sign that we Anons were correct. We were correct. We're going to be proven right pretty soon. And that what really needs to be done right now is calm. We don't need people in the streets running around causing havoc. If QAnon was a PsyOp, it'd probably be trying to get us outside to panic, all right? Getting us outside to protest and cause havoc, because that would play into the hands of the cabal. Us being calm and kind of letting this play out over the next few days, that actually backfires on them, because you got to think, people are upset at Trump because they felt like he didn't do enough to stop this deal. What people don't realize is Trump's entire role was to expose the swamp. But now that this swamp is exposed, it's Donald Trump's job to step out of the way and now let the military do the rest. Q's helped with this. It's woken up people. I wouldn't be a Trump supporter today if it wasn't for QAnon, I got to admit. And there wouldn't be as many as awake people as there is now. And so many people. It's funny. You could tell, just go to any YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter channel that has Joe Biden on it, and you will see the dislikes are always higher than the likes. And, that just goes to show that the public's pretty awake, whether or not they want it. The news and the media wants to admit it yet. Public's awake, and it's only a matter of time before all of this is put out in the open. And anybody suggesting that Q is a PsyOp is just, I'm sorry, you just don't have the endurance or the faith to keep going with what we're witnessing here. And I just want to put for the record, because I'm putting this video out and I'm putting my own name on the line, my own reputation. When this all plays out, I'm going to be so happy that I'm going to be one of the guys saying, I told you so. I freaking told you so. I don't want to hear all you guys that are like doom and gloom that kid Trump betrayed us and da-da-da-da, that when it finally comes to pass, all y'all jumping on a train again. It's going to be super noticeable, and I'm going to be one of those guys saying, whatever, you lost faith at the end, but hey, I still love you. But anyways, I'll leave it there. I feel like I made my point. I share this with friends or with people that think that Q is a PsyOp, because it makes no damn sense. They don't need Q to demoralize us. They need Q's pretty much kept me in good spirits. All right. So I'll leave it there. Share this with your friends. Anybody that's down in the dumps or feels like they've been betrayed, let them know that it's not over and that we're almost there. So I'll leave it there. You have a good one.